I think we can stay in Egypt and ask, while Ezabi is the Chief Executive Officer of Sun Infinite Energy, and he has an international career in the MENA region and in the US, and he's also in the steering committee of SEDA. Sun Infinite Energy is one of the first company in Egypt working on the solar, I think PV sector, and already has a market share of almost 30% of all installed capacity in Egypt. And while can you be, more specific in highlighting some of the barriers that you find in the development of the Egyptian market, and also one or two reasons why an investor should come in Egypt and invest in the sector?
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you very much for your efforts. I'll start with what would be an attraction to any investor to come and invest in Egypt. And I think it's a very clear case, and we ourselves, we're investing there because of those reasons. The reasons are the huge potential for the growth in the market. That is very clear right away when you look at a glance. It doesn't take an expert to identify that you have a certain demographic situation where you have a huge number of, more than 90 million people, and you have very small infrastructure in terms of the available energy. So you have all the installed is less than 30 gigawatts so far, which is very small compared to the population and the GDP. Also the penetration of the renewables is quite small compared to that. So looking at a glance, comparing that's the existing situation, and adding to it the growth of which will be at least doubling every 10 years. So you'll be going to maybe from 30 gigawatt now to 60 gigawatt total, and the government planned by 2020 to have that renewables penetration 20%. So you're talking of large numbers that are not realized so far. So first of all, now that is confirmed that you will have a growth in the sector, all what was remaining is to have a regulation to support it. And that was really falling behind. So that potential was dormant, and that potential was not really realized on the ground. Very recently, in 2014, and of course before that there was 2012 and 2013, small steps towards the regulation, but there was a big leap in 2014 by the introduction of the feed-in tariff program, and also all the related other infrastructure models to be able to go on-grid. That actually will unleash all that potential for the implementation of on-grid PV projects in Egypt. In parallel to that also, there is also the off-grid market, which will take maybe a little bit longer. We expect it maybe in the next 3 to 4 years to start really taking off like the on-grid took off this year. This is because still the diesel prices are very low, like 25 euro cents per liter or something. But what is confirmed now is that already the government has set a regulation to take away the subsidies gradually. And for the first time, they actually announced what will be the ratios of reducing the subsidy for the next 5 years. So you can easily have a clear plan on what kind of numbers will be on the fossil fuels and the prices and the price tags of them. So you can actually plan ahead with that. So yeah, we see a huge potential. Also, the last component of that puzzle is the vast area of Egypt, and it's very scattered also. So we have so many developments in faraway places, and because during the last 50 years there was not enough investment in the infrastructure as well. So you have a lot of areas where they are off-grid areas, doing diesel plant generation, especially in the south and in the east. So that's where the potential for the off-grid would come when the diesel fuel prices are going to increase for sure for the next 3 to 5 years drastically. And then they might stabilize a little bit after that. So this is what I say about your part of the question about the why to invest there, and that's why we're investing there. On the barrier side, on the other side, I mean, there's always going to be a challenge. The first challenge, of course, is that it is a new market to the, not only to the participants of the market, but also to the government. So the government also needs a lot of capacity building because the private sector is going so much faster than what the government can cater for in terms of develop. For example, the feed-in tariff is very impressive on the high end, on the bigger projects, 50 mega and above. But then on the lower scale where you want to have, for example, feed-in tariff on the households for 10 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt installments and stuff like that, the feed-in tariff is not as attractive. Because, by the way, I didn't mention that in the beginning, the feed-in tariff on the higher end, on the bigger projects, 20 mega and 50 mega plants, are extremely attractive, more than $14 which is almost double the current rate for any competitive bidding you would have on a tariff. So, but on the household and the smaller, which is the majority of the situation in Egypt, it's lower, and you don't have still the utility companies who are going to pay you. They don't have the model going on yet. So that's definitely one barrier. And the general bureaucracy in general, that's the biggest barrier. So, yeah.